first thing my husband said was, wow, that looks designer. And you guys, I didn't even know he knew the word designer. I'm putting all of my hopes and dreams in the blocking. Please save me. I actually learned this is not Marie Wallin. I did not know that. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jackie and this is Jackie is Making, a place where I talk all about the knit garments that I'm creating. And today I have for you another podcast episode where I'll be talking all about my latest finished object, and then I'm going to go through 3 of my whips that are currently on the needles. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about just a couple of acquisitions that have made it into my life. Both aren't yarn, actually. One is a pattern book and another is a little notion that I found super helpful in my knitting bag. So stay tuned for that at the end. But without further ado, I can't wait to get started jumping right into today's podcast episode to tell you all about my latest finished object, the Cumulus Tee. So you can see I'm wearing this right now. This is the Cumulus O-Neck version by Petiteknit. This garment is made in Knitting for Olive's silk yarn in the colorway cream. It's a 100% silk yarn and it's in a fingering weight. So my overall thoughts and feelings on this garment were just that it took so long to knit up. I mean, when I'm thinking back through my last year of knitting, so for anybody who doesn't know, I've only been knitting for about a year. I'll be coming up on my yearly anniversary here sometime soon in September. We'll have to celebrate for that. But this is the first time that I've knit a fingering weight garment. I've knit like fingering weight hats and socks, obviously, but never a garment before. And I felt like with this one, especially with it being in the silk fiber, it just was a very long process for me. I think in total, this was on the needles just over 2 months. But it was something that was hard to constantly want to pick up and work on, just because for the very first time I started feeling pain in my hands, kind of on the backs of my hands right here. All of a sudden I would be working, and I would say maybe after 40 minutes to an hour, I would just start feeling pain. So I'd have to set down my work, and I knew it was related to this project. One, because I'd never had that sort of pain before, but also because when I would switch to a wool project, I could still knit for the rest of the night and I wouldn't have any like further pain. So I knew it was coming from that project, and then it was further realized once it just kept reoccurring every single time I would knit on it. So that was definitely the most disappointing part of this, was just that, you know, the pain, and then also just the longevity of the project because of that. You know, I knew going into it is going to be a long project with that fingering weight yarn, but the added pain definitely made it feel like more of a slog. I would also say, you know, me picking it in this cream color, there were aspects to it that made me just not as excited. Like, it's not as exciting to pick up a white yarn. And then there were some other elements to it as well. One was I learned pretty soon after I cast it on, my friend Sarah, she was making another top out of silk yarn, and she had laid her top out to dry. She did like a mid-project block. She laid it outside to dry. It was like a sunny Wisconsin day, and it turned her garment like this yellowish color. And she right away messaged me and was like, hey, did you know that this is a thing with silk yarn? And I quick looked it up, and it's totally a thing with silk yarn that it yellows in the sun. And that was really surprising to me, because silk yarn is very much known as a summer knitting fiber. So it was very surprising to me that like it would be a fiber that would diminish in the sun, especially because it's something we'll be wearing outside, and we knit it so that we can enjoy it in the summer months outside. So that was, I think that kind of put it dampened the project in my mind right after I had started working on it, just because right away I was like, what did I do? Why did I choose white? It's gonna automatically turn yellow. And I've even noticed there are a couple sections that I feel like are yellowing because I've worked on this outside a couple times. So that's something to just keep in mind. There are other aspects to silk yarn as well that I've learned since learning that it yellows, like that it very easily breaks down. Like it's probably not going to be a garment that lasts me a super long time. So that's definitely something to just keep in mind if you're interested in making a silk weight garment. I will say as well, the type of silk that the Knitting for Olive silk is, it's not lustrous in any way. It's not shiny. To me, if you were to like blindfold me and you know those boxes where you like put your hand in and you kind of guess what the item is, if you were to do that with me, I would guess it is a linen cotton yarn. I might even say 100% cotton, honestly, which is so interesting. That's crazy to me that a 100% silk would not feel shiny. It wouldn't feel slinky. Actually, another yarn I'm working with that I'll talk about later feels more silky to me than this does. So I'm not sure why that is and why a yarn would be so different than like the sheen of a woven silk fabric. If anybody has any ideas on why that might be, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. But yeah, that is just something that was very, very interesting to me. So that's kind of like my overall experience with it, is just that there was some like hindrances or like disappointments kind of early on, and then the pain, so it kind of dampened the project in its totality. But that being said, the pattern itself was very, very like simple and easy. I could definitely actually see myself making this again, perhaps in like a fingering weight merino, and seeing if that would be something that I would like, because I love the way this fits. I love the simplicity of it. I really love the raglan increases. I think they look so beautiful. I even had a friend ask if this was pointelle because it just looks so delicate and lacy. And just like the round neck, like this is a neckline feature that I love to wear, that I think is very easy to style and to wear. So yeah, the actual like the ease of the pattern, you're pretty quickly getting in the round and you're done with those raglan increases. And just like the actual construction of it and how I'm going to wear it, I really do like. So if that's something that appeals to you, and you know, maybe if you've worked with this silk yarn before or you have another fingering weight yarn in mind, I absolutely for sure would recommend this pattern and could see myself making it again. I also feel like this just feels really great against the skin. If you have any sort of sensitivities at all, I think this would be a fabric you would love. It's really unlike anything I've ever felt before, any of my garments I've ever felt before. It's light, it's airy, but it also has a sort of denseness to it. And I guess there's no other way to put it than it just is unique. I've never before had a garment that really feels like this. And I can see myself wanting to wear it and pick it up just because it's easy, it's lightweight, and it also feels a little bit elevated. When I first put it on last weekend, the first thing my husband said was, "Wow, that looks designer." And you guys, I didn't even know he knew the word designer. So that to me was a sign that it definitely looks more high-end. It looks kind of put together. You can easily dress it up, dress it down. So that's absolutely like a positive to this pattern. And I will say I could see myself picking this up and wearing it more had I made a different color. That's also just like a disappointment for me, is just picking this cream color. I'm pretty worried about getting it dirty. Like I'm already thinking of, I have like a work dinner later this week and I'm like, oh, what if somebody's drinking red wine and they accidentally spill it on me, and just little things like that. And I have to be super careful with makeup. Like I put another shirt over my head before I put it on. And just little things like I know I'm going to pick it up less because I'm more scared to ruin it. Versus, you know, if I had made it in a color that was a little bit more forgiving with stains and whatnot, I might not be as hesitant to pick it up. But a new philosophy that I'm trying to do with my clothes and other things that I purchase is just that if I get something, it's not like getting out of a poverty mentality, you know, where you like cling to something and you're like, I have to keep this pristine because I could never get one again. It's not true. At least I'm blessed to say that's not true in my life. There is no world in which I couldn't ever make one of these again, or, you know, any item that I have, I want to, if I'm buying it, I want to use it because I bought it. And, you know, if one day it's wrecked or I have to get a new one, that is okay. But that's definitely something that is a hard mentality for me to get out of, because I try to keep things really nice and then I end up not using them, and it's just, it's kind of pointless, you know? Why did you get it if you're not going to use it and utilize it? So yeah, I don't know, maybe that speaks to any one of you who also struggle with that as well. So that is the Cumulus O-Neck version. I will say I also own the V-neck version, and I could see myself maybe making that up as well. I could also see myself maybe doing a version where the sleeves are a little bit longer. Petiteknit does do her sleeves all the way to her elbow, and I ended up maybe finishing like a couple of inches from my elbow. I felt like that was a style that was a little bit more easy, or just like a normal t-shirt type of style. Just looking at this as well, I do have a few more comments. One is tension is so unlike anything I've ever done before with this silk yarn. I mean, if you're looking at this up close or in my pictures, you can see kind of holiness or just the differences in tension. And, you know, that's not something that I super fret about, but if you're someone that leans towards more of like a perfectionist, it might really bother you. And then the other thing is when you're joining a new skein of yarn, I would say just be extra careful to join it in a place that's not going to be noticeable. So maybe, you know, down the side of the garment, or at least like on the back of the garment where you're not going to see it and care about it. I have a couple of places, I think I have one on my sleeve, like in a kind of obvious spot where I was trying to join it in a manner that would make it more secure, because I know that these sort of summer fibers can be more slippy. You know, it doesn't have that woolliness to it that's going to grip on and stay intact. So I tried to join it in a manner where I would include it in a few more stitches and just make it like a little bit sturdier. And in doing so, you can just kind of see my joins a little bit easier if you're looking for them, or if you know where they are, like me. I don't think that somebody who would just look at my garment who wasn't a knitter would see it. But yeah, that's definitely kind of the two imperfections, I would say, would just be, which is kind of big things, right? Is like the tension, and then anytime I'm having a join, it's just, you can see it, versus on some of my other garments, I don't know where my joins are because they're joined in a way that's pretty hidden. Lastly, the edges are finished with an I-cord edge. It's a 4-stitch I-cord, and I'm happy with it. I think it's fine. They were rolling a little bit before I blocked, but the block completely took care of that. Pretty easy to do. It definitely takes a little bit longer when you have more stitches like on the bottom, but it's no problem. It was totally fine to do. And then lastly, the blocking process, pretty easy. I appreciated it's not a super stretchy fabric, so it's not like crazily stretching when you're blocking. I felt like it was pretty easy in that regard to keep it intact while I was blocking it. It did take longer to dry than I was expecting though. So it does seem to hold on to water a little bit longer. So I'll be mindful of that as well when I plan to wash it in the future. And yeah, so I think that's really like my final thoughts on this silk top. I think my plans for the future, I don't need to like edit anything or change any aspects to it. I think that I could see a future in which maybe we're having an episode where I over dye this if it does tend to get a little bit dingy or anything. Or maybe we're bleaching it or something. I don't know. We'll have to look in and see what would be an ideal situation for that. And then the only other thing to note, I'm thinking of this, like as I'm looking at it, I keep looking at it and thinking, what else can I tell you guys? The last thing is there is some fabric gathering in these raglans. I find for me that's in, like, as I'm looking at other pictures, that is a common thing with raglans, is if you're not getting that absolute, like, to the skin join, like this, like say if I had it like this, it would be perfect. You're gonna have some fabric, but for me, I'm kind of liking that, I'd rather have that and have something that's more airy and oversized than something that has no extra fabric and is skin tight, just because of the way I like to wear my garments and how comfy this is. So I'm totally fine with that. So yeah, that's everything with my Cumulus Tee O-Neck version. Let me know down below if you guys have made a Cumulus Tee, if you've used silk yarn and how you feel about it. I would love to know if you have a way that doesn't hurt your hands. For instance, somebody told me that they felt like the give of a wooden or a bamboo needle makes it so that it can be a little bit easier on your hands. I had never heard that before, and that sounds like something maybe I should try in the future. So if you have any tips like that for me or for anybody else, please leave it down below so we can know some better tips to use with silk yarn. And then lastly with this, I did end up only using 4 balls of Knitting for Olive silk yarn. So for my size, I bought 5 balls and I only needed 4. So I have a whole other ball left. Not sure what I'm gonna do with it, but yeah, that's something to be mindful of. Is it's a pretty affordable pattern with the amount of yarn that you use. Okay, next I have for you a whip that has been on my needles not super long, maybe a couple of weeks. And this is what I'm calling the end to my summer knitting. And this is the Sabai top. And I'm knitting this in the Sandnes Garn Line Yarn in the colorway Slate. You can kind of see a little bit of a strand here. It's a very unique yarn. It's unlike anything I've ever used before in that it's almost cool to the touch and is soft. It again feels like that cotton linen, but you absolutely can feel the viscose in it as well. It feels very, very soft. So I don't know even if soft is the right word, because it's not soft like fur soft. It's just, it has a very nice finish to it. So here we go. Sorry, I'm banging my needles everywhere. So I showed you a little bit of this last week. This is the front panel all complete. And then lately I've just been working up on the back panel, and I just have about 6 more increase rows, I think 12 more rows to go before I'm gonna be joining in the round. So if any of you guys don't follow me on Instagram, make sure you follow me over there, because once I get this in the round, I'm for sure gonna be trying it on and like sharing it in my stories. But yeah, this pattern has been kind of not in the forefront of my mind. I wouldn't say it's something I'm super excited about. It's kind of just, when I think of it, it's just something that I'm working on. It's not something that is really bringing me joy or anything. I don't know, again, is that the color? I have knit so much with bright, just like lively, exciting colors, that these 2 summer garments being in like basically a black and white, yeah, I don't know if it's boring me or not. That'll be something to be mindful of. But yeah, this pattern is like a boat neck tank, and it features ribbing on the top, and then it also features some like really beautiful kind of edges along the side that is worked with some ribbing and then just goes into a stockinette. And let's see if I have anything else to tell you about this. Not really. I mean, the biggest thing I think why I'm not super excited about it is 1, the yarn color, 2, I'm rowing out quite dramatically. And the tension again is just wild. It's it's so hard to tension. And I feel like if I kind of like stretch it like this, I'm getting a lot better of a fabric. So I'm hopeful about the block. I'm putting all of my hopes and dreams in the blocking. Please save me. But yeah, I enjoy that it's this slate gray in the fact that I think this is going to be something I'm going to love wearing to work. And the fabric is really, really nice. It feels just so cool, so light and airy. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to enjoy wearing this garment. It's not anything that's like sparking me joy or anything crazy. I just, it's not hitting the edge of my serotonin levels, but I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with the way it's working up. If everything blocks out, I will be very happy with it. It's just right now, the unknowns are making me a little bit hesitant to it. So yeah, I'll update you guys on this again in my next podcast episode. I think by then we'll be joined in the round, and once we get there, I can tell it's going to be very fast. The one thing with this pattern is there definitely is a lot of purling if you're not the biggest fan of that, especially like when I think a top-down knit tank top, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a breeze because it's, you know, you're gonna be in the round super quick, but you're just not with how deep these armholes go. You're knitting flat for both panels for quite a while. So yeah, that's the only thing with that. And yeah, like I said, I'll be putting some pics on my Instagram, but that is this one for now. And I am definitely kind of more wanting to get this one done. Like every time I look at it, I'm like, okay, let's get going, Jackie, because then we are done with summer knitting. I don't want to be one of those people that like wishes summer away at all. It's really just the working with the fabrics that has been a little bit hard for me. So I will say, however, I absolutely can see myself using this Sandnes Garn Line again. It's if I had to choose between the two, I would choose the Line over the silk every single time, just by the way that it feels and the way that it is easy to knit on. I will be interested, however, to see like how it holds up in comparison to the silk. So that'll be something I'll have to keep in mind to let you guys know how they're really holding up. Okay, I am so excited to show you my next whip. I just posted a photo of this on my Instagram. I got so much done on this weekend. I went on a fun little getaway trip with my husband for our anniversary, and this was something I just knew I really wanted to get in the round on and work on. And this is my California sweater by Knit California. You can see it here. I'm so aptly calling this my crushed leaves sweater, but I'm also been being like, it's like a tiger rolling in crushed leaves because it has that little like stripey aspect to it as well. As you can see here, some of those beautiful stitches. It's definitely a very open gauge. I've mentioned to you guys before, Leslie created this pattern inspired by the Lento gauge, and you're using 6mm needles for it. So it's something that is just really light and airy, mixed with a fingering weight plus mohair yarn. This is just so fall to me and is just really, really the perfect start, I think, to getting me inspired for fall has been working on this. And I love that I'm working on this now because it's something that I'm going to be able to wear throughout the whole fall season, which is so exciting. So I'll show you guys the yarn that I'm working on. I have a little bit of a mess in here because I am alternating skeins just to ensure everything looks good color-wise. So this is the Four Crow Fibers fingering weight yarn. It is like a sock yarn, so I think it's 80% merino wool, 20% nylon, and this is in the colorway Earth to Sky. And it's such a gorgeous color because it kind of has, you know, really when you look at it, the color that you see is orange, but it really has a lot of like blues and yellows, browns, and then obviously that like kind of zebra stripe going through. So it's very, very unique and extremely fall. And then with it, I'm holding the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, and this is in the colorway Dusty Robin. And I am just like continually so impressed with this mohair. It is the perfect amount of fluff, not too fluffy, but fluffy enough. It's soft. I like that it's a little bit more dry. I have been working a lot with Surrey, and Surrey has a little bit more of like a wet feeling to me, and it's almost too much fluff. Like it comes off the garment. It's just, and it really fills your gaps. So actually, when you're looking at a pattern like this, you may prefer a Surrey because it's gonna really fill up those gaps a little bit more. But for me, I like something with a little bit more of lightness and airiness, at least for this project, and because I've used Surrey quite a few times in the past. So right now I'm enjoying that this is a more dry, light fluff versus something that is more dense and heavy and full, if you will. So yeah, so what I did this past weekend is, last time I showed this to you, I had been started working on that back panel. So for a drop shoulder, you're first working that back panel in a sort of rectangular fashion, and then you're picking up both sides one at a time for your shoulders. Then you're joining, and that circle is going to be your neckline, and then you're working down before, do you split for sleeves? Join. You're not splitting for sleeves, but you're working down until you join in the round, okay? So that back panel, you're putting the stitches on hold, and then eventually you're joining all in the round. So yeah, I'm loving the construction of this. It is, with a drop shoulder, you are purling quite a bit longer than you would be, for instance, for like when I was knitting the Lento. That one is so enjoyable for people, and I would especially recommend it to beginners because not only is it that big gauge, but you're also working raglan increases, which are a little bit beginner friendly, I think. But you're also just in the round and working down immediately. There is like barely any purling involved. I do think, however, you have to work short rows, so that may not be the most beginner friendly of all beginner friendlies, but don't be afraid if you've never done short rows. They're super easy if you just watch a video or two. But this one, yeah, you're just definitely working flat for a lot longer. So that is the only thing with this pattern. There's like a larger barrier to entry, if you will, like a larger time before you get into the round. But I'm excited and hopeful about the overall drop shoulder look. I love that look, and I'm curious to see which one I like more on my body type. So that'll be something we're gonna have to wait and see. But so yeah, so right now I can show you the back and the front. And what's left for me right now is I'll just be continue knitting down until I reach, I think it's maybe about 2 inches shy of my desired length. I think Leslie has in a desired, or like a typical pattern length as well, so you can either go by that or try it on and pick your desired length. And then I'm going to be knitting ribbing to finish it off, and I'll bind it off. And once I'm done with that, then we'll pick up for sleeves and knit the sleeves down. So yeah, that's where this is right now. I would say my hopes would be before the next podcast episode that I would finish the body and be able to try it on for you, and then pick up a sleeve and go from there. I am in a test knit for this, if I didn't mention that already, and this is due on September 1st. So it's definitely something that is like on my mind that I'm wanting to pick up and wanting to finish it in early, just so that I'm not like getting too near to that deadline. But it's pretty quick knit with this open gauge, so not too worried about it. And I'm absolutely loving working on it because of the way that the yarn is pairing so beautifully. I kind of hemmed and hawed over what sort of mohair would go best with this hand-dyed yarn, and I'm just absolutely so pleased with the color that I picked. So it's so fun to see it being worked up and coming to life. It's, if you can't tell, it's really bringing me a lot of joy. So yeah, that's that one. So I think on my podcast, the next finished objects that you're gonna see for sure are gonna be that Sabai top and then this California sweater for sure. And I'm actually having this in my Four Crows fiber bag. This is a local dyer to me in Madison, Wisconsin, and she gives you this like really cute project bag whenever you buy yarn from her. So I'm so excited to go see her booth again, probably at Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. Okay, next I have for you just kind of like a 2-second update. For those of you who have been following my podcast, you know last week I showed a finished sock. This is Hermione's Everyday Sock in Retrosaria yarn. And I just have a little bit of an update for you. I'm finished with my ribbing on my next sock, and I've just started working in pattern again. So this like sock works so beautifully in this kind of textured pattern, I would say. You're kind of purling every 3 or so stitches and switching on and off in a 4-row repeat. And this is a free sock pattern if you at all are interested. It's been a joy to work up. I've loved working on these. So yeah, this, I have a couple of like car rides and other work things. So I think this will be put in my work bag this week, and hopefully I can get to knitting on it a little bit more so we can make some more progress and finish with these, because I actually have a really exciting announcement in next week's video. Let me see, actually, is that next week? What are even our days? Yes, and I actually have a knit along coming up, and that's all I'm going to tell you for now, but all the details are going to be released by next Wednesday for next week's podcast episode. I'm working on it with another creator, and that's all I'm going to tell you for now. So if you made it to this point in the video, just know you know the inside scoop for what's coming next Wednesday. Okay, and then I have something really fun. A few podcasts ago, I told you all about this Wild Barn yarn. This is a yarn from Harvest Hill Acres in Minnesota, and this is a yarn that is created out of one sheep. So this sheep's name was Brooklyn, and she's a Romaldale sheep, and this is a DK weight yarn. So you can really see it there. She must have had, I'm guessing her coat has some like whites and grays and browns, and it's really marling together to create this beautiful cool toned brown that I just love. And so my husband and I, like I mentioned, we had our 10-year wedding anniversary this past weekend, and I told him I was finally gonna cast on a sweater for him that I've had in the plans for him. So I cast on the Zipper Sweater Light Man. I think that's the order of the words, by Petite Knit. So I'll just show you what I have so far. This is just a 1x1 rib that I've just started working on, but as you can see, I have it on 2 different needles, and that's because this is cast on using Judy's Magic Cast On, but you do it on 2 different needles. And what's funny about this is I kind of thought I could outsmart it, and by that I mean outsmart the pattern, because I've done a Judy's Magic Cast On before, just on 1 needle, and I was like, I'll just let the other stitches rest on the back of the needle while I'm doing the front. No, that didn't work. Patterns are written the way that they are, usually for a reason. This always happens to me. I always think I can finagle, I can make shortcuts, and I usually can't. So I ended up I cast it on, realized I couldn't outsmart the pattern, took it all off, and then recast it on again. And you're doing it, I believe, on these 2 needles just so that it's easy to knit together once you get to the end. So where I'm at right now is I'm doing this 1x1 rib, and I'm knitting it to a certain length, and then I'm going to fold it down and knit it together, because this is going to be the collar of that zipper sweater. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure to cast this on my anniversary and kind of get this going. 1x1 rib isn't like the most fun thing of all time, so what I'm doing is just keeping this on the needles, working it up whenever I have a break in between projects. Maybe I'm switching in between projects. I'm just gonna knit a few rows on this one, then move on to my next project, and when it's ready, it's ready. So yeah, I know that the process after this, I was reading a little bit in the pattern, is really interesting because I think you maybe go down and it's like, I don't know if you bind off some of them, but then you're only going to be working on maybe a front of the few stitches of the collar. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about, but just know it's a technique I've never done before, and it will be fun to tackle and figure out, and I'm sure I'll be talking with you about how that goes. Hopefully it's smooth and not too difficult. So yeah, so those are all of my projects right now. I think that I'm at a good, healthy level of projects. I'm going to wait to cast one more off before I cast on anything else. But yeah, once one of these is cast off, I'll be casting on one of the fall projects from my fall knitting video. So stay tuned for that. I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick first. I was actually just thinking, my husband was talking to me about budget stuff, and I was thinking, okay, well, I probably need to purchase my next thing for my fall projects. And I was like, which one am I gonna choose first? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking the Olga sweater will be my first. But then again, maybe I should get my mohair and get started on my Ann Wenzel cardigan, that cardi cocoon. So I'm not really sure. But one thing that I do have that kind of relates to that, I'll go get it quick to show you. Okay, so for my first acquisition, I got to go to Utopia Yarn Store in Viroqua, Wisconsin. And it's a beautiful store. They actually have their own yarn mill as well, about 30 minutes away, but it's only open during the weekdays, so I didn't actually get to go there. I was a little bit disappointed by that. Maybe I'll get to go there sometime in the future. But I didn't buy any yarn because I'm trying not to buy yarn if it doesn't correspond to like a pattern in my plans that I'm working on. So I may have something that I'll think of maybe for winter. I know they'll be showcasing at Wisconsin Sheep and Wool, and I always love their booth and love their yarns. They're actually the ones that made the yarn for my purple Tosta tank, if you've seen that. But at their store, they had a huge Jamieson's Shetland wool display, and right away I thought, oh my goodness, maybe they have the Marie Wallen book that I'm needing. I guess I don't technically need the book, but in my fall knitting plans, I mentioned I really want to make the burra cowl. And the reason why I want to make it is because my end goal is to make that yell cardigan. And both of them are featured in this book. And there's also a few other patterns I was interested in this. And it's just such a beautiful book. So, you know, it is pricey for one of these, but yeah, I think it's something that I'm gonna love collecting, and I would love to collect more of her pattern books as well. I actually learned this is not Marie Wallen. I did not know that until this weekend when I was looking on her Instagram, and I was like, who's this lady on there? And why is this girl never on there? This is not Marie Wallen, okay? I don't know why she doesn't feature her face in any of her pattern books. She chooses to showcase this beautiful model. I'm not sure if they're related or anything. If you know any tea on that, please let me know down below. But yeah, kind of a fun fact I learned. But so this is a truly beautiful book. All the photographs are photographed at various locations around the Shetland Islands in Scotland. And she did this whole book, like all these patterns, in collaboration with Jamieson's, like that Shetland yarn. So that's what's really, really cool. So I'll show you. This is that burra cowl that I'm wanting to make this fall. So I think I'm gonna choose the exact colors that she does, just like for ease of use. It can be a little bit confusing choosing colors, especially in Fair Isle, because there's so many colors. So I think I'm just gonna do her colors. maybe I'll show you guys a few other ones. This is that Yell cardigan that I'm dying to make. That is for sure on my goals. My friend Kaylee actually was telling me there's a steeking class that we may take in October, and I've already been thinking maybe I need to take that because that would be a stepping stone in getting ready to make the beautiful Yell. This is another one I really love. Really, really cute. I think I would make it a little bit shorter so it's more just like a vest. She kind of knit it like a tunic. I love, love, love this hat too. Look at that. That's the Scalloway Tam. So yeah, this is just like a beautiful, beautiful coffee table book. I am so excited that I'm one step closer to working on some color work and doing that Burra cowl. So it would be an absolute dream of mine to go to Scotland one day, like wearing one of those pieces. Oh my goodness. And then lastly, I have this really cute, it almost looks like a little briefcase. And actually there's no name on it. I feel like there was a name on it when I got it from my local yarn store. So I'll have to post on the screen what it is. But let me just show you how I open this. So it has a little kind of clasp here, and then you open it like this, and then it has a top piece that folds back, and just looks like this. And in here, in the top region, I have a scissors and 2 darning needles, and then I have just a bunch of different stitch markers. I have also some like stitch, what do you call them? Like progress keeper markers. And then this one's empty right now, but then I have some like T-pins for sharpening my Chiago needles as well. So this is something I actually got a few weeks ago, and I just haven't shared it yet because I didn't know how much I was going to love it or if it was going to be a little bit cheapy. But it hasn't been at all. It's been something I've been loving carrying like on the go. I used it the whole time on my trip this past weekend. And what's funny is I'm not only using it on my trips, but I'm using it like around my house too. So if I'm upstairs knitting, and then if I go into my bedroom or if I go downstairs, like this is all I'm bringing with me because I just know it has my scissors and my little needles if I need to weave anything in, or if I need to put in like a scrap yarn. And then yeah, all of my favorite stitch markers are in here as well. So I do think maybe it's not the tightest in between the little grooves because some of my markers can tend to move in between the chambers. So I need to see how in the world that's happening because I don't know how that would happen. But yeah, this is just incredible. I have seen this as well on Etsy, so I'll probably be linking either my shop's link to this or an Etsy link. But I'm just loving it so far. I love carrying it everywhere. I know it comes in a couple of different colors. This was the only color that was available at my shop at the time. It's one of those things where like, do you need it? No, but is it very helpful if you have the funds and you need something like that for travel? I would absolutely recommend it. All right, well, that's everything that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here as always and for watching. I am only 100 subscribers away from hitting that 3,000 mark, which is just incredible. I am so grateful to be making along with all of you and for everybody's like discussion in the comments and all the times that you hit like, all the times that you comment back or you're messaging me on Ravelry or on Instagram. It's just so fun to like engage and feel like when I'm making, I'm not just making by myself, but I'm making with other people, and in like knitting and creating just feels so like inherent to who I am. So, but sometimes it can feel a little bit isolating, like I'm the only person in my family and the only person like in my work group that is like a maker. But like getting to know you guys and getting to know other people in my own community that are makers just makes me feel like so known and heard. And so I hope that I can make you feel a little bit that way as well, sharing in some of the things that like I screw up on or some of the things that I find joy in that maybe that you find joy in as well. So yeah, stay tuned for next week where I'm going to talk all about that new knit along that I have coming up. I have like a pattern roundup that's going to go with it. That's going to be super, super fun. And yeah, if you want to see how my projects are progressing, make sure you follow me on Instagram so that you can stay up to date. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.